Hello boys and girls, it's winter onion time and we're doing the Japanese senchu, which did very well for us last year. We actually started them a bit later last year. We started them at the end of October. But as you can see from this, I don't know if you can see from that actually. On that, it's got the planting schedule. So it's September, October, November. It's the end of September now. So as we're in northern climes, it tends to get a little bit cooler earlier. So we're starting them off now. I've got 80 onions there, 80 of the senchu, exhibit A. And they're all of a similar size, they're all sort of that size. They were started off from seed last year. And these are onion sets, which means they were started from seed last year. They got to that size, they let them grow onto that size, and then they stopped them growing, basically. And left them in readiness for now. So they're already off and running. What we need to do now is get them into trays. Now you can put them directly into the soil, but I'm going to start them off inside the tiki tunnel and see how they get on. Give them a bit of a fighting chance. Let them get a bit of a shoot going before we plant them out. Get some roots on them, and that way, when the birdies come along, you tend to get blackbirds and stuff coming along pecking them because they see it's green, it's young, as Joe says. It's sticking its nose up in the air, and the birds try and attack them. Now I'm going to be putting some cage over them as well until they get really root established. But for the time being, at this stage, we're just going to get them into the trays. So what I've done is I've got a mix here of compost and about 10 or 15% vermiculite mixed into it. Now that's the clover compost. As I've been rooting through this, I haven't sieved it, but any big bits that I've found that's been in it, such as that, I've just taken them out so it's a little bit finer. Doesn't have to be sort of really fine, but it'll help because it's not completely compacted. It's going to be quite a loose compost mix, especially with the vermiculite in it. That'll assist really, I think. Yeah, in fact, I know it will assist with the root growth of these. What we want to do at this stage for the next sort of 4 weeks is get the roots going. So if you look at the onion, the pointy end there is where the shoots come out, the leaf, and the base is where the roots come out. So let's get cracking on with that. All I'm going to be doing basically is taking one of these trays. These trays are 40 cell trays, and we got these from Wilco, and I think you can get 5 for £2 of these trays. They're dead cheap, and there's 40 cells in each. So in that goes, and then we just top them off with the compost and vermiculite mix, like that. I don't know if you can see that from there. So that's all I'm going to be doing. Make sure you can see what I'm up to. I'll adjust you a slight touch. Right. So the tray goes in, the compost gets put in, rubbed into the cells. Again, any big bits that you find, you're taking them out. Bits of twigs and what have you. When it's not totally rotted down, it can be taken out at that stage. That's all Mac Derby next door. What are you whacking there, Mick? What? What are you whacking there? Yeah? He's just burying one at committee minute compost next door now, Mick. So, in there go there. I'll just pause you for a bit. So, bums down, snouts up. In they go. Really easy to do. Push them down so they're half and half, half in, half out, and we continue on with that until we can fill our trays up. Oh, really simple. It's not rocket science. And the idea of this is it'll give them a start. So hopefully, as you'll see in a bit, I'm going to moisturise the compost. And from the base, excuse me, the base, the roots will come. From the top, from the snout end, the shoot will form. And this will be in about 3 weeks' time. They'll be ready then for going outside. Now you can put them directly into the soil, which we're going to be doing, but this will be a bit of an experiment as to which is the best way of doing it. So these are going to go into the trays, and we'll start them off in the trays. So I'll have 80 altogether. There are 80 in there. So these 80 will be started off in the trays. And then the other 80 are going to be going straight into the ground, but they're going to be covered. They're going to be covered over with a metal grid, which I'm going to show you in a second or two. We'll get these in. I'm just peeling off. I'm not peeling off loads of layers of the onion, but I'm getting rid of the outer loose stuff. So that all goes into there. The next step is I'll do the next tray. So we've got the both trays, and then the next step will be getting them into a watering tray. So I'll get the other one in, fill that up, get them both into the watering tray, and then we can moisten the compost. So yeah, there's just about ½ an inch of water, not even that, about a centimetre or so of water into there. The trays go into that, and then by capillary action, the water is drawn up and moisturises your compost mix that your onions are sat in. And you just leave it like that then for about a week or so. This time of year, the water won't be drained away and evaporate or anything like that, so you can just leave them. All we're doing really is, we'll have to check it. We don't want them drying out, obviously, but you don't need to put a lot of water in there. You just want to get that compost damp so that the roots get the idea and start to sprout out, and then the shoots start to sprout out. And as I say, when they get to about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, we're going to get them outside. And there they all are, 80 of them in the cells. Only small cells, those, like an inch or so square. And they'll be in there for a couple of weeks until the roots start to come out from the base and the little shoots start to come out from the tops. Once the shoots get to a couple of inches high, they're either going to be going into buckets or they're going to be going outside in the ground. But I've got another 80 or so that I'm going to be putting directly into the ground. So that's what we'll be doing next. I'm going to take you for a little trip to Pole Green Nurseries now in Charnock Richard, which is quite close by to where the plots are. When I say close by, it's about 8 miles away, but I do like Pole Green Nurseries. If you're a long-term viewer, you'll know that. So we're going to have a scoot up there. We're going to get some more of these onions, because I think I want to get about 200 onions on the go to overwinter. So we'll see how we get on and see what different varieties they've got. We've only got the Senshu overwintering onions at the moment. I thought I had Snowball, but I've not. So I'm going to go up there and see if they've got any Snowball. Now the ladies at Pole Green were a bit curious about what I was up to, and I was trying to film down there. So I thought, well, I don't want to upset them, so I didn't do any filming. I might have a word with the manageress though next time I go down and just see if it's okay with them to, because she wasn't there today, if it's okay with them to show you the wonders of Pole Green. I'll tell you what I can show you though. Are you prepared for the upcoming zombie apocalypse? Mitsubishi Warrior L200, that. Every little farmer needs a pickup truck, eh? It's a beauty. It's a 2008. Mitsubishi Warrior L200. Can't show you the number plates and stuff. It's actually, unfortunately, just a loaner. It's been lent to me rather than it being my car. But there might be some questions being asked to the to Mike Ingram. See what he says. It's while mine's in for repair. Mine's in for repair at the moment with my Nissan X-Trail. So yeah, it's a cracker, leather seats, electric everything. It's got the full package with it. It's a 2.5 litre. Yeah, it's a cracker. I like it a lot. I'm like a 48-year-old, but yeah, the kids love it. It's a monster. Leather seats, full mat. So this is an outside bed, obviously, as you can see. It's in front of the tiki hut, and it's about 6 foot by 4 foot in dimensions. I'll try and shield you from the wind because it's breezy today. It's blowing everything about. We're going to be putting some onions directly into the ground outside here. Now, before I actually put the onions in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a bit of nutrition, a bit of a nutrition boost. Onions like nitrogen. You get nitrogen from horse muck and farmyard manure, which we've got here. It's a good source of it. So that's going to be going into the ground. I'm going to be sprinkling the farmyard manure on top of that as a top dressing and then raking it in. And once I've raked that in, the onions can go in, and then I will top that up then with more compost to further cover the onions. Alright, now the onions are going to be going in just deep enough so that the snouts are sticking up, but over the top of that we're going to be putting another 3 or 4 centimetres of compost just to cover them all over and keep them nice and snug and warm in the bed. So inside there we're going to be putting the Electra. I've just bought some Electra onions, which are the red onions, and I've also got some more Senshu. Couldn't find any of the snowball stuff. I'm going to nip back inside now because it's blowing a bloody gale. Okay, so the lighter coloured brown flakes you can see on top there are where I've sprinkled on the 6X. I have been going around and making sure I'm pricking out any little weeds that I'm finding. It's been weeded earlier. This was the bed, as you remember, that had in the sweet corn. So it's had 20 sweet corn plants growing in that, up at the top end, and then the buckets were down here with the parsnips and the carrots in, and some marigold flowers around the sides. But now it needs to be reinvigorated with the nitrogen, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to rake that in with Exhibit A. Give it a rake in just a couple of inches so that the manure gets integrated in with the rest of the soil, and then we'll go and get the onions. I'll go and show you the onions that we're going to be putting in there, the onion sets. Right, so let's get raking. So all I'll be doing is just moving it all about, shifting it and integrating it. Just a couple of inches. You can see the stalks there that I've missed. Now these stalks are from the sweet corn plants. Now once I've cut off the tops and trimmed them a little bit, they're not too bad. It's okay to leave a few in because they'll rot down over winter, but the majority and the bigger ones I'm going to try and get out. But I'm just going to rake that in for a couple of inches, disturb the soil surface for a couple of inches so that that nutrition gets into the soil. It'll wash down over the next few months as well while the onions are in there, and then the roots will seek it out and etc. Nature will take its course, hopefully. So now the farmyard manure has been integrated into the top sort of 2 or 3 inches of the soil with the rake. A good tip is to get it, you want it quite flat, as flat as you can get it really. I like to have it, for the aesthetics as well, you know, make it aesthetically pleasing. You always get these little subterranean weeds that were just below the surface popping up when you do the raking over. So I just pick them out as they come. But a good tip is to just gently brush over with a stiff brush the top surface, and you try and keep it as flat as you can with that. I don't know if you can pick that up, but it saves you bending your back too much really, that, and doing the old Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off to get it nice and flat. That sort of gives you the tilth. And as you can see from that again, you get these little weeds popping up, bits of bric-a-brac on the surface. You can spend all day picking them out, you can waste your time with it really, but I like to get it looking something like that before we do the actual planting in. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting, because the birds like to pluck out young onions as they're popping up, the blackbirds come along and peck them out and what have you, because they don't know what it is, they just like pulling things up because they're pigs. What I like to do is cover them. Now we've got these off Magical Michael next door. There's some drawers out of a cabinet that he had. But what we're going to be doing is when we put the onions in, it's not quite big enough to cover the bed, but I'm going to leave about 6 inches all the way around. Spur for next year, and I'll be putting catch crops in there, like radishes and stuff like that around the sides, and putting my flowers in, putting my marigolds in next year. So we're only going to be sort of growing in this bit. So there's 3 of them, and the onions are going to be placed, once they're in, they're going to be placed underneath those so that the birds don't peck them out, don't get a chance to peck them out when the shoots come through. But that is for a little bit later on. I'll put that back over there. Right, I'll go and get my onions. I'll show you the onions. You can always make yourself these baby plant protectors, the cages, just out of wire like that. You know, you've got the sort of mesh material there. It's just to keep the birds off, to stop the birds coming in and pecking out what you've planted. So yeah, that's just a sort of chicken wiry stuff or whatever. Horticultural caging, whatever, I don't even know what it's called. Wire mesh, and then zip tie to cover the ends. That's an old one, it's one I made earlier, that. But that's what we use for the peas. When we first started the peas off, to keep the birds off, to keep the pigeons off. Of course, they're straight on it now, like. But there's only so much one man can do, isn't there? Alright, so out of the sets that we got from Paul Green, I've selected 18, was it? 6, 12, 18 of the Sensu, Japanese overwintering onions, and I've also selected 36 electric. So I'm going to have 2 inner beds of the electric, 16 in each, and 1 inner bed of the Sensu. And just to make it look symmetrical, I'm going to put the white ones in the middle with the 2 reds flanking them on either side. So that is the plan. Now's the time to put them in, back end of September into October. Up here in the north, a bit further down you can probably get away with putting them in later. But because it gets a bit, those few degrees colder up here, I like to get them in around about now, end of September coming into October. So that's what we're going to be doing. Like yesterday, on this video, obviously you'll see it today, but yesterday we started them off in the trays there, in the cells. And there's 80 in there of the Sensu. I have got more onions there, and I may even get some. What I found actually with the electric though was there were a lot of these itty bitty ones. You get 250 grams, but there were a lot of these itty bitty ones in there, which I haven't favoured. I will be doing something with them, don't get me wrong. I'll be planting them, but I'll probably be planting them in here in buckets, just to see what they do. I think they're a little bit itty bitty. They didn't get a chance to sort of fatten up certainly as much as these Sensu did. But I don't know whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing going forward, to be honest. Because we may get issues, because they're a bit further along, or they look a bit further along, we might get issues next year with bolting, which means they're going to be going to seed too soon. But that's in the hands of the gods, innit? We'll see how we get on with that. Okay, fingers crossed. But these are going in the ground right now. So using our cage draw, we've marked the borders to each of the inner beds. We've got the master bed and then the inner beds. And there are 3 of them. You can get 3 of those in there. That marks the edges. And then using a cane, a cut down cane, that's the right sort of size, we'll mark where we want to put our rows. So the rows go in, leaving enough space to get your hoe in between,
as the onion grows, it'll grow to be in about like 4 or 5 inches diameter, these ones. So you need enough space to get the hoeing and get your weeding done when the plants are growing. That's the theory anyway, that's the idea. If you don't leave enough space, then there's a lot of sort of bending and riddling about you've got to do to get the weeds out. But ideally you want to be able to get your hoe in there. So I'll take me hoodie off. You can get the hoe in between and work your way down the rows. Might get a narrower hoe actually, like a sort of 4-inch hoe, or grind that one down, and so it's you know, it's not. That's what Joe's done. Joe's got one that's been narrowed down. It's only about 3 inches wide, and he gets in between his rows with that. He can put a bit more. He can put a bit more crop in that way. You can't have them right sat on each other like, you know. You need to have those gaps to get the airflow going through when the onions are growing. But you know, you can tweak with it a little bit. Anyway, that's marking where the rows are. There's roughly about 7 or 8 inches between each onion as I put the onion sets in. So I'm going to continue with that. All I've done is I've used my hand as a measure for that. Now I know that's about 6.5, 7 inches between them two. And that's where I'm putting my holes. So we'll see how we get on. But that's it, yeah, so I've marked it out with that. We'll set that up now. Mark them out with that. Then the cane will be going on onto there, and just make an impression with the cane into the soil. Same here, a light impression is all that's required, to be honest with you, just so you know where the row is going to be, where it's going to fall. Leaving a gap for your hole to get through. Okay. So I'm going to continue on with that, putting my holes in, then I'm going to go get my onions and bang them into the ground. Alright. So, it's the rule of thumb. So it's a thumb's depth down into the soil, in the pop. I'm not going to go in for the full depth because I'm going to be dusting over the top of it with more compost as a sort of a blanket mulch on top of them. But anyway, we're ready for the next step, aren't we, boys and girls? Okay. 18, 36 electric, and 18 of the Senshu Japanese overwintering onions, giving us a grand total of 54 onions in there. Now, if we get a 10% failure on that, that's still around about the 50 mark, isn't it? That we're going to be getting 48, 50 onions, hopefully, coming out of that bed. That 6x4 bed. Now, you could have probably packed in a couple more into there, but I don't want to overcrowd them. Overcrowding can lead to sort of issues in regards to sort of leaf rust and other sorts of contagious diseases. Lack of airflow coming through and that kind of thing can be detrimental, and you can lose a lot more of your crop than you potentially gain by overpacking packing them in. So they're all in there now in the gridded format that you can see before you. What I need to do now is use about half a bag of compost, standard compost. I've got that multi-purpose stuff, which is 3 75-litre bags for 11 quid from Paul Green. I'm going to be using about half of one of those. So it's around about £1.50, £1.60 worth of compost that's going to be sprinkled over the top of that, just to cover them. Before I do that, though, I'm going to peg them. I'm going to peg out where the rows are, so either side and around, I'm going to mark on where the rows are, so as the shoots start coming up, I don't get it mistaken for something else and pluck it out, or attempt to pluck it out. It's just a little thing that you can do. You don't have to do it particularly, but I tend to do it. As you can see, there's markers from a previous crop that we had in there, the beetroots, marking out where the beetroots were. And I did it with these as well. Just marks out where your rows are, so when your weeds come through, your little specky weeds come through like these, you know it's not a plant you're plucking out, it's an unwanted plant known as a weed that you're pricking out. So unless it's in your nice neat rows, you know it's not particularly edible or whatever, or not desired. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cover those up. As I say, we're going to mark the rows as well, mark out where the actual onions are lying. Okay, Now, to give the shoot stems as they come up the best fighting chance, try and get them as straight as you can, pointed as vertically as you can towards the sky. Now, they will tend to favour the sun as the sun comes up. The sun rises in the east, which is over there, and it sets in the west, which is over there, which is kind of perpendicular to the plots, really. We could do it turning all the whole plots to point that way, so we get the proper sunrise and set, a full day's worth. But anyway, we'll have to put a complaint in with the Almighty for that, won't we? So there they are, snouts pointing up, bums pointing down. We've marked out where the rows are, where the rows lie, so we know whether they're going that way and they're going that way and whereabouts we can expect them to come through. Because I'm covering them up with that cage in there, we should be fine. So as they come through, the blackbirds will come. They won't be able to peck them out because of the caging. Once they get properly established, like these ones are, excuse me, it won't be such an issue, to be honest. So they won't be able to pull them out. They'll have roots to sort of seat them in, but at least we're making an effort, aren't we? We're doing what we need to do. We're doing everything really that we need to do to ensure best results, which is what you want, isn't it? So I'm just going to cover those up then with the cake. Well, I'm not. I'm going to actually. I'm getting ahead of myself there. I'm gonna get out of my shadow for a start. I'm going to cover them up with about half a bag of that compost, so about 30 litres of compost going to be going onto that. And just to hide them under the compost, under the soil. Okay. I found this 30-litre bucket in the lady farmer's greenhouse over there, and it's the spent carrot compost, which has got the vermiculite mixed in with it. Oh, I thought I might as well just throw that on top there, because it's only as a coverage, it'll cover it, and with the vermiculite in there, it'll allow better drainage and what have you to get down into the soil, won't it? So I'm going to give that about half an inch, or just to cover the snouts up. Yeah, I'll just get all that on there. I sound like Boris Johnson. Oh, I'll get all that on there, and we're on social distance, and right, okay. So that's going to go on the top of that. Yeah, and that's it. Essentially, it's about 20 minutes worth of work, really. It's not a lot. It's had another gentle brushing over the top with the stiff yard brush. It's just the weight of the brush, really. You just use it's difficult with one hand, obviously, but it's the weight of the brush. And it evens it out. That's the plan, anyway. It does work. It's a lot easier. It looks nicer. You see that it collects up the high points. It collects the high points, and because you're doing it lightly, it redistributes it where the low points are. If you're gentle, just do it gentle, very gentle process. And get the old billiard cues out and what have you. You're laughing there, aren't you? Okay, so that's it for today, boys and girls. I just thought I'd show you the onions. Ta-da! Crack on. Be seeing you. And there it is, the bed behind me. Hope you like that. I'm going back up to the tiki tunnel at the top to get me coffee, have me coffee, drink me coffee. And we're going to be cracking on with the Germidor. Actually, it's not going to be Germidor, it's going to be the Casablanca. And we're also going to be getting, on the next show, we're going to be getting the pups from the elephant garlic. So we're going to be introducing you to the pups from the elephant garlic and what you do with those. So if I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window. This is Gordon Murphinda signing out, and remember, we love you all. Keep growing with your heads down, and yeah, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye bye, boys and girls. Have a good weekend. See you later.